All right, so this week, and this week only, we will be talking about the respiratory system. This is going to be somewhat abbreviated because this is your last week of class before you have exams. So yeah, that's that. Crazy. Not how I thought we would end up, but here we are. So the respiratory system, we are going to talk about the anatomy of the respiratory system. So the structures involved. We're going to talk about how air gets in and air gets out. That's breathing mechanics. We're going to talk about gas exchange, so oxygen in, carbon dioxide out. We're going to talk a little tiny bit about how gases move around your body. And then depending on how I feel about that, we may talk about the control of respiration and imbalances. We might skip that control of respiration. All right, so starting superior and going inferior, this is a diagram I would know on your test. It is, I believe, highlighted later on just by itself. So this is the upper respiratory tract. So you start with your nasal cavity, which is this space in here. It's all sort of open. Fun fact is that you do not have this until your face grows out when you are a older child. It starts in the nasal vestibule, which is like right up inside your nose. You're inside there, you have vibrissae, which are the science word for your nose hairs. And the whole idea of your upper respiratory system is that it is going to filter, moisten, and warm air before it gets to your lungs. This is a very important role. If you've ever had a good head cold and you've spent a night breathing through your mouth, you understand that that is not physiologically great for you. You wake up with both a bad cold and a sore throat from breathing through, and it's just not as good for you. So up inside your nose, you have a lot of sebaceous and sweat glands. So when you sweat, your nose also sweats up inside your nasal cavity. That's what makes your nose run when you exercise. Within this, you have respiratory mucosa. This is a reminder from, say, September, where you have pseudostratified ciliated columnar epithelium with these goblet cells here. So you should be able to identify that. Those goblet cells are going to make mucin, which turns into mucus. Then you also have serous glands that make like a water, sweat kind of stuff. This does have a lot of primary immunity function, so that sort of first line of defense against infections, because your nasal cavity is warm, wet, and dark, which is the big three of growing bacteria. So you need to have a lot of defenses against that. So you have goblet cells making mucus. Mucus will glob up, and then hopefully you remove from your body all of the stuff that you're inhaling. You have lysozymes in the liquidy part of that break down the cell walls of bacteria. You have defensins, which are natural antibiotics, and you also have your normal microflora that are living there, keeping you well. All right, so inside all of your nose, you have nasal mucosa, and then you have olfactory mucosa up here where you have your smell receptors that are coming out of cranial nerve 1, which is your olfactory nerve coming down. And every place where that is innervated is called olfactory mucosa because it's doing the smelling part. Paranasal sinuses are open holes, chambers in your face. So there are two above your eyes. Those are your frontal sinuses. You have maxillary sinuses down on your cheeks. If you've ever had these be blocked and filled up or infected, you can understand where they are in great detail because they are very, very painful when they are full or have a lot of pressure in them. The point of them is to lighten your skull. If it was solid bone, it would be much heavier. And it also helps moisten air because air should flow through there. Again, they are warm, wet, and dark, so it is very easy to get a sinus infection. And when you do, it's also really kind of hard to treat because it's hard to get medicine up there because it doesn't have a lot of access to. It's hard to get really clean those places out, especially these maxillary sinuses. When they are full, it is hard to sort of clear them. All right, so moving out of the nasal cavity into the pharynx. The pharynx is your science word for your throat. You have three regions of it. You have the nasopharynx, the oropharynx, and the laryngopharynx, and we're going to speak about each of them individually. So the nasopharynx is up here. It is above the epiglottis. This is in your nasopharynx. You should only have air. That's what makes the nasopharynx. No food is in that area. So you also have the opening to your pharyngeal tonsils, or you have your pharyngeal tonsils up here. Those are sometimes called your adenoids. So if you've had your tonsils out, and they say they removed your tonsils and your adenoids, that means that they got your palatine tonsils that are back here those are the ones you can see when you open your mouth, if you still have them, and then your adenoids are what they call these pharyngeal tonsils, and sometimes if you get one out, you get both of them out if they're infected. Tonsils are thought to have an immune function. They're kind of like big glands, but some people, they are constantly infected, and so removing them is helpful to their health. You also have the opening to the pharyngeotympanic tube, which is also the eustachian tube. So your friend from the ear part of the chapter opens up right here, and can drain fluid. That wasn't cool. Drain fluid from your ears into your throat. Gross. Or you can push bacteria and stuff from your throat or from your nasopharynx into your ears. Neither of which is really ideal. It's really there to equalize the pressure in your ears. All right, so the oropharynx is between the uvula and the epiglottis, and it is a place that has both air and food moving through it. And because it has food in it, any place you have food is going to have stratified squamous epithelium, because that food is very abrasive. Your nasal mucosa is very delicate, but stratified squamous epithelium is very tough. That's why it's there. Your epiglottis is here to close when you swallow over your trachea, your air tube, and shunt food down your esophagus here. Here you have your palatine tonsils, which are the ones you get removed, and your lingual tonsils that you almost never get removed. All right, and below that, inferior to the oropharynx, is the laryngopharynx. And the laryngopharynx is everything inferior to the epiglottis when it's closed. It has, again, both food and air, so it's this area here. So actually, it's kind of where it swings, so let's say that part. So you have both food and air, so it has, again, stratified squamous epithelium. You also have, in this area, the larynx. The larynx is your voice box, and it is also the pathway for air to go from your upper respiratory system down to your trachea. And it, in your larynx, also is the place where the epiglottis moves that food to the esophagus. And then when you're not swallowing, air goes down to your trachea. The larynx itself provides voice production, which is very important because humans use your voice to communicate. And it is a structure made out of soft tissue and cartilage. All right, so voice production, your voice comes from your vocal larynx, which is made up of this structure here. This is looking as if you put like an endoscope down your throat, so you're looking down into the larynx. The tongue is here. The epiglottis is here. Maybe we'll make this a short video and I'll put in a video of someone making sound. Yeah, we'll do that. Okay, so there's that. And when you swallow, it closes over this because this is the opening to the trachea. The trachea is down here. The hole in the middle is called the glottis. And you have these vocal folds. You have two of them. There's a true vocal fold and a false vocal fold. I don't really care that you know that. That's fine. But you do need to know that these vocal folds, vibrate together when you push air through them, like a woodwind instrument. So, mechanism of making sound, you squeeze together your vocal cords, you push air out, and the vocal folds wiggle to each other and force air out. The fun fact is that there's this thing called Valsalva's maneuver, which means you cannot sing and lift heavy objects or sing and defecate. So wrap your head around that, and we'll start the next video with a video of someone endoscoping making sound.